you smell
what raw
is cooking?
To you, depending on where you're watching this from in the world. Scooter Rob here with the first Scooter Rob Talks episode based on Formula One, and what a better topic to start with than with, well, Nico Rosberg is the 2016 Formula One World Champion. He took second place at today's Abu Dhabi Grand Prix behind Lewis Hamilton and ahead of Sebastian Vettel's Ferrari after a late charge on a brand spanking new set of super soft tyres come the finish. Rosberg has done it. He's world champion. He follows in the footsteps of Damon Hill to win a world title, much like their respected fathers, you know, Keke Rosberg in 1982, and now Nico Rosberg in 2016. So people, you know, are already kind of, you know, expressing their opinions about the result, the race. I mean, let's talk about the race, shall we? Let's just start with that. So the race was incredibly tense. It's everything you want from a title decider. You didn't know until all of the drivers involved had crossed the line what was going to happen. I mean, let's just start with the main talking point from the actual race, and that was Lewis Hamilton's tactics. For my money, Lewis Hamilton's tactics were fine. It was wise of him to do what he was doing. I do not agree with the team coming over the radio and saying, look, basically, speed up. You know, this is an order, speed up. I know what Lewis is doing. And when Mercedes do say, look, they let their drivers race, for them to turn around and say, actually, to try and influence the result by saying, Lewis, speed up, you know, I don't agree with that. But there was a bit of gamesmanship going on. Lewis knew what he was doing. Was it morally right? Probably not. But he had a right to try. I think, to try and do everything in his power to take, you know, as much of an opportunity from Rosberg away. But it just didn't happen, and people are kind of giving Lewis stick for it, and they might say that Lewis is going to get in trouble with the team for that. I mean, just a slap on the wrist. At the end of the day, Lewis didn't win the World Championship because of it. Nico Rosberg's the champion. So you can't really punish Rosberg. You can't punish Lewis a great deal, because at the end of the day, his tactics didn't work out. Rosberg drove, in my opinion, the race of his career. I think it's maybe sometimes people say race of your career, you know, do they mean, you know, he won by like a minute from everybody else? Sometimes the circumstances surrounding a particular drive make those special drives, and for me this was Rosberg's finest hour, in terms of him dealing with the pressure of the occasion and of the circumstances surrounding him. I have to say, can you imagine Nico Rosberg sat on that grid right before the start of that race, thinking, yeah, this is going to be the longest 90 minutes of my entire life. And he was put in a very compromising situation by Lewis being so slow and backing him into the cars behind. But he did a fantastic job of maintaining a good level of pace to where the cars behind weren't a problem, despite Lewis, come the finish, was just literally just not moving. I'm pretty sure a show car in the factory was moving faster than Lewis's car come the final few laps. But again, I've expressed my point that I think Lewis had a right to try to do that. But Nico dealt with the pressure like a champion. I know that's a massively cliched thing to say, but he did. Rosberg, for me, drove superbly. And again, just dealt with the pressure from in front and behind, and the occasion and what was at stake. And he, you know, had to race wheel to wheel with Max Verstappen. One of the only real sort of moments of racing amongst the front runners all day long. But, you know, Nico made that ballsy move stick. And I think it was at that moment where I thought, yeah, Rosberg, providing nothing happens with the car, that this is going to be his day. And I'm genuinely pleased for him. He deserves the World Championship. People saying he doesn't deserve the World Championship because Lewis has had more reliability problems and setbacks over the course of the year, to which I say, it's Formula One, people. things like what happened to Lewis in Malaysia, they happen. It's the way it's always been, and it's the way it's always going to be. So if that's a problem to you, stop watching right now, because it's never going to change. I made a post on Facebook, which I'm not going to read all of it, because it's a bit of an essay, but it kind of expresses my whole point. In fact, you know what? I've got it here on my phone in front of me. I'm going to read this. It's a bit long, but I think this fully explains my thinking in regards to the whole, Lewis deserved the championship more than Rosberg because he had more problems. That's just being a sore loser. Trust me, 2012, Alonso, oh my God, came within 3 points of the 2012 title in a dogged car. Do I think Vettel didn't deserve the title that year? No, he deserved the title because he won it. He won the championship. Was I so disappointed that Alonso missed out on the title for Ferrari by 3 points despite driving incredibly that year? Do I then think, Vettel didn't deserve that championship? No, he did. He deserved the championship. For God's sake. But here we go. This is my speech, if you will, my rant. It's quite long, so I'm going to start literally quote for quote. Here we go. I'm just going to hit the nail on the head here. People are saying that Nico Rosberg does not deserve to be Formula 1 world champion because Lewis suffered more reliability issues and setbacks. It's almost like they think no driver has ever retired from a crucial race through no fault of their own before. Here are a few examples from down the years. 1986, Nigel Mansell lost the World Championship in the final round in Australia because his tyre exploded, which resulted in Prost winning the title. Does Mansell's tyre blowout mean Prost is any less deserving of the title? No, of course not. In 2005, Kimi Raikkonen had the fastest car, but it had horrible reliability, which resulted in several races that he should have won going to Alonso, who went on to win the title. Does that mean Alonso didn't deserve the title as much as Kimi? No. 2006, Michael Schumacher's normally bulletproof Ferrari suffered from an engine failure in Japan. Michael's first mechanical retirement in over 5 years. He then would go on to have an even more troublesome weekend in Brazil, where the car failed on him in qualifying, all but ruling out any chance of him winning the race, which was the only chance he had to win the title. Do all these circumstances mean that Alonso didn't deserve that second title as well? No. 2008, Felipe Massa retired from the Hungarian Grand Prix in similar circumstances to Lewis in Malaysia this year after leading the race from the front. And because the whole Crashgate situation in Singapore, the incident with the fuel hose staying attached during his pit stop happened, which cost him that win as well. Also, Lewis drove a tardy race in Brazil and only secured the 5th place he needed to win the title on the last corner of the race because Timo Glock was on the wrong tyre whilst Massa weathered the storm, literally, and won that race brilliantly, doing literally everything he had to do to win the title. Do all these combined circumstances, the engine failure, the Singapore incident, Timo Glock staying on dry tyres, mean that Lewis didn't deserve the 2008 world title? No, he deserved it. You know why? Because over the course of a Formula 1 season, 8 months of racing through difficult circumstances, highs and lows, the one who has the highest amount of points come the end deserves the title. And that has nothing to do with the personal feelings about said driver or because they beat the driver you support. And just to bring it back to Rosberg and Hamilton, Abu Dhabi 2014, Rosberg's car fails on him, eliminating any chance he had to even fight Lewis come the end. Does that mean Lewis didn't deserve the title? No, of course not. It's F1, people. Things like this happen. Lewis has deserved all 3 of his world titles, and he would have deserved this year's had his tactics worked in the race today. So people need to wise up, suck it up, and realise that Nico Rosberg is the world champion for 2016 because over the course of the year, he has driven well enough to have the most points come the end. And considering how difficult today's race was for him, with Lewis doing what he needed to do to maximise his chances, to fending off a fast-charging Vettel come the flag, his drive to second place today was, for my money, the finest of his career, and what a better way to win your first title. Things happen in Formula 1. In a sport as technical and mechanical as one, how could it not? This is the way it's always been, it's the way it'll always be. Cars break down, drivers make mistakes. Hell, this season has not been, quote, easy for Rosberg either. Everyone had completely written him off before the summer break, but whilst Lewis was getting terrible starts in Italy, for example, Rosberg stayed cool and did everything he had to do. His approach to the final few races was very Alan Prost Lewis-esque. Sure, he won less races than Lewis over the course of the year, but he did what he had to do to secure the end result, which was the title, and fair play to him. If people think that these various things that can happen in F1 makes the end result unjust or something, then stop watching now, because it's never going to change. Rant over. Now, if you don't mind me, I'm going to go stare at a calendar and begin counting down to Australia. That is my opinion on the whole situation in a nutshell. But we're going to talk about Nico Rosberg and just quickly discuss his season, his rise to the world title. I mean, he debuted 10 years ago. He famously set the fastest lap on his debut. He was one of the few people to ever do that, I think. He has been given, relatively dodgy cars from time to time. His Williams weren't always great. He joined Mercedes in 2010, and he outperformed Michael Schumacher over the 3 seasons they were teammates. Which, considering Rosberg's pace now, I think is kind of more of a nod in Michael's favour, because Michael would still score points and do well against Rosberg from time to time. Now you look at Rosberg, and he was younger, and he won a race in 2012, and that was where he won his first race back in China in 2012. I must say, in 2012, if you'd said to me that Rosberg would one day be world champion, I kind of would have gone, maybe not. Since the V6 hybrid era kicked in 2014, Rosberg has been given the best car for 3 straight seasons, and Lewis has just got the job done on 2 of the 3 seasons they've been together in the V6 era. And Rosberg came into this year having won the last few races, the first 3 races in 2015. His momentum was on his side. He won the first 4 rounds of the season. Then he crashed with Lewis in Spain, had a dodgy race in Monaco, which, drivers have them from time to time. They just do. And then you look at the championship, you have a period where Rosberg's in control completely. Then you have a period of time where, bar Spain and Azerbaijan, Hamilton is in complete control. He wins all but 2 races from Spain to Germany. And Rosberg's having, setbacks as well. I mean, look, he the race in Monaco was not a good day for him. He, let's think. In Silverstone, he gets a time penalty which drops him from 2nd to 3rd, and then, lo and behold, because the FIA and the stewards realised that, hang on, this radio communication rule is a load of BS, really, we'll change it back. So Nico's got a penalty for something that's then been changed back to how it was before. So you can't help but think, hang on, if the governing body and the stewards and the rule makers realise that the rule was actually really stupid, then how can you penalise someone if you're then going to change it because it's stupid? It's just a bit harsh, really. And then you got Germany, bad race. He was on pole, dropped to 4th on the first corner, and he had a bad day. And he had got a time penalty in an incident, I believe it was with Verstappen, which I still think was harsh, but he got the penalty anyway. And he went into that summer break, and everyone was saying, this championship's done. It's Hamilton's. He's going to walk away from the rest of the season. And look at the response Rosberg's given. He won pretty much he won every race up until America, I believe. Apart from Malaysia. He won pretty much every race up until America. So Lewis won America, Mexico, Brazil, and now in Abu Dhabi. He did everything he could, but Rosberg also did everything he had to do as well. Lewis won all 4 races. Fair play to him. He did everything. Literally everything he needed to do. But then, so did Rosberg. Rosberg only needed the 4 second places, and that won him the title. And people saying, oh, Lewis deserves it more. Massa probably deserved the 2008 title more. If you think about the dodgy circumstances that it had on multiple occasions, but Lewis deserved the 2008 championship because he won it. It's how it is. It's Formula 1, people. Whoever wins the Premier League, if they win the Premier League, they deserve it because they've got the most points. They've had to win games to, be in a position to even win the league. So people need to essentially shut up. And I'm directing that mostly towards the very narrow-minded selection of fans of not just Lewis, but of the sport maybe, who look at it from one perspective and are not prepared to look at it from others. And those people who are smart, who know the sport. I mean, I've been watching the sport next year's Italian Grand Prix will be my 20th anniversary race as a fan. I've been watching this sport for nearly all of my life. I know the ins and outs of this sport. I know that there are moments where you want to tear your hair out because this, that, and the other doesn't make sense in your brain. But then you also think, yeah, it's Formula One. It's unpredictable. I don't hold anything against Alonso for winning the 2006 title because Michael Schumacher's engine broke down in Japan. It's Formula One. It happens. It's a heartbreaking sport sometimes. It can be I mean, come on. I mean, like as I said earlier, 2012, I was devastated that Alonso didn't win that World Championship. 2008, devastated. But do I hold Vettel and Hamilton respectively? Do I think they don't deserve those championships? No, they do. They just do. It's F1, people. It's sport, and providing that they haven't got to, the end result through dodgy circumstances, through dodgy tactics, which you could argue that if Lewis had won the championship today because of the tactics he was pulling off against Rosberg today, you can argue that maybe Lewis wouldn't have deserved it. But it didn't work out, and I would think, I'm just of that opinion that if you are first come the end of the year, you deserve to be first. Doesn't matter whatever happens to other people. You've still got to drive your car to the flag and get the results and get the points. I think people look at Malaysia as the moment where Lewis lost the title, and you could certainly argue that was the moment where Lewis's championship was made exceptionally more difficult. But Lewis would have deserved this championship if he had come back to win it, because nearly 50-point lead that he clawed back to about 5. I mean, that's a hell of an effort. But over the course of an 8-month season, 21 races, thousands of laps, Nico Rosberg ended with the most points, and that's just the end of the discussion. He deserves the championship, 100%. It's just how it is. And I think people need to just, if they don't like that part of the sport, the fact that sometimes races and championships can be determined through weird outside circumstances that are completely out of the hands of the driver or the drivers in question, then just stop watching now. Do yourself the favour. Find a sport where it's, or in fact, to be honest with you, you won't be able to watch sport. Sport is that. Circumstances. Performances, individual moments, things happen, and that's the only way you can look at it. You can't say that Rosberg doesn't deserve this year's title. He does, because he got the most points, and he's your winner, and I'm delighted for him. It's nice that we have a new world champion on the grid, and as we say goodbye to one in Jenson Button, we have a new world champion come in. And I always find it funny that people say the likes that Vettel don't deserve his 4 titles. End of the day, anyone, and this I mean anybody, including Jack Villeneuve, who ends the season with the most points, deserves to be world champion, and that's a fact. It doesn't matter if you're in the best car, and 9 times out of 10, with the exception of Alonso coming within a whisker in 2012, despite being in probably the 3rd best car. But yeah, McLaren, Red Bull, Ferrari was the order in terms of car performance that year. Maybe even 4th best, I don't even know. Alonso came within a whisker of it. But 9 times out of 10, the best driver and the world champion for a particular year won that championship in the best car. It's rare that isn't the case. People say Rosberg didn't deserve the title because he was in the best car and the car didn't break down. Just like, well, Lewis was also in the best car in 2014, 2015, and he won it. And Rosberg had unreliability, and moments which just cost him. That's it. That's all you can say. I feel like I'm repeating myself. I just wanted to drum it into the idiots' heads that think that this, that, and the other. Oh, Team Ham, LH44, #blessed, who are so narrow-minded about it that they can't see past their own BS. And just see the picture for what it is as a whole. And that's all I really have to say. As we head into 2017 and the new regulation changes, I do think we may see a sort of scenario that happened in 2005. Ferrari dominate for years, new regulation changes, and Ferrari are struggling. You never know, that might happen with Mercedes. I think with the resources and the money and the drivers that they have, I don't think Mercedes are going to suddenly drop off the front. But we're going to see other teams get closer. I think for sure Red Bull are going to be right there. Like, literally right there. And we need that for the sport. And as a Ferrari fan, I can only hold my breath and hope that Ferrari build a good car and actually are able to take the fight to McLaren. McLaren are a topic I'll talk about in a minute. Are able to take the fight to Mercedes and to Red Bull, because we do need a season like 2003 or 2012 or 2010, where there's just multiple people and multiple teams that can take it come the finish. That's all I really have to say really about the whole Rosberg situation. I'm delighted he's champion. I think he's a great driver. I think Lewis is the better driver, but Rosberg is a great driver, and he absolutely deserves it. And that's all I have to say. I know I've repeated myself a massive amount, but it's true. He does. I said I'd get on to McLaren. Obviously, Jenson Button retired from the race early. Basically hit a raised curb and broke the suspension, and his race was done. And to be fair though, he got the same sort of response that Massa got in Brazil, with the crowd standing up and cheering him, and he got that moment of television time where it's like, yeah, he gets, that moment of, people embracing him and what he's done. And it's sad he didn't finish. It's obviously really sad that he doesn't finish. I am probably going to do a Jenson Button episode and a Felipe Massa episode. I'm going to just talk about them, because these two guys, especially Jenson, have been around. Like, I've been watching Jenson Button race for over 2/3 of my life, so him not being there anymore is going to be hard, I think. Especially, I feel like 2 of my 3 remaining childhood drivers are gone in Jenson Button and Felipe Massa. I'm glad Massa finished. Came home in a points finish, and he got the chance to do some donuts and stuff, and I was like, I'm really pleased. Good for him. And he'll be missed. They'll both be missed. They're 2 fantastic personalities for Formula 1, and they both are very likeable guys, very talented, somewhat underrated in some respects. And they will be missed massively, I think. No pun intended for Massa Lee. But McLaren, Ron Dennis is now will be stepping down as the top man at McLaren. He'll still be, I think, a shareholder in the team. But he's not going to be actively in charge of the team anymore. And I think because of all what's happened with Rosberg and with Button and Massa, that kind of has fallen by the wayside. So Ron Dennis, I never liked the guy, to be honest. Very cold. I've always been liking Ron Dennis to being the almost like the Emperor from Star Wars, or Darth Vader, head of the Empire, and he would replace drivers that he'd been nurturing for years. I mean, the one that really annoys me was Kevin Magnussen. Has K-Mag in their juniors, their young driver scheme essentially for years and years. Give him 1 year in the team. And the car they give him isn't that great. And he gets dropped. Yes, they brought in Alonso, and Button was still very much a desired. They needed 2 experienced drivers to lead that new McLaren Honda charge. But poor K-Mag, man. Like, you nurture this guy from a young age. You give him a shot. He gets a podium he gets a 2nd place on his debut. He looks like he's made in the team, and all of a sudden, bang! Oh, sorry, you didn't do as well as we wanted. We're only going to, and Perez as well. They brought Perez in 2013, and the team was like, nah, that's it, bye. We didn't like you. because you didn't do as well as we wanted. So that really annoys me. He was a whiner. He would, make excuses for everything. But only an idiot would look, take those things and think, yeah, that's the defining memories. Ron Dennis is a titan of this sport. Been around for as long as I can remember. Whew. Nurtured, I say nurtured, but, his management of Prost and Senna was historic in terms of what happened in terms of F1 history. He's been at the forefront of, at one point, the best team in motorsport. And McLaren is as big a name in the car industry and the motorsporting industry as any other name. And it's because of him and what he's done and how he's brought this team to the forefront. He'll be missed, I think. I mean, it's just a little bit of an end of an era in many regards. We no more Button, no more Massa, no more Ron Dennis. It's going to be, it's going to be a little bit different. But F1 is always evolving, and we've got some fantastic talent in the sport and some fantastic talent coming in. Max Verstappen is the future, and there's already a good argument that he could well fight and maybe become world champion next year, providing Red Bull give him a good car. And that is a distinct possibility. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm sad that the season's over, because F1's my everything. I love this sport. But next year's exciting. New regulations. New fresh start, man. Things are going to change, hopefully. Ferrari are going to come back and we're going to win races, and I'm going to Silverstone next year again. After this, they've been 3 years away, and I'm excited to go back and to experience it again. I went for 14 straight years. 14! And now I'm back next year. And I'm taking my friend Liam, who has never been, and it's going to be great. And I get to basically be his tour guide for the weekend, and I get, we're going up on the Wednesday, we'll come back on the Monday, we're going to go for the full weekend, we're just going to get really drunk on the Wednesday, do the whole pit lane parade, walkabout thing on the Thursday, and just enjoy every minute of the on-track action during the weekend. So that's next July. And I'm just excited, obviously, I've heard the thing, December's the only month, really, where there's absolutely nothing F1 related taking place. In January, we get the new cars unveiling, and, that's always exciting. And, it's going to be, December's cool in a way, because, you get Christmas and the countdown to Christmas, and then New Year's, and then you're in it will be in 2017, you'll be like, oh, sweet. New year, and then before you know it, the teams are going to be unveiling their cars. The hype behind that's going to be there. Then we start testing in February, and then we kind of get the first on-track action of the year in terms of testing. Then it'll be March. We'll get to Australia, and we'll go, here we go again. Off we start. It's going to be good. We just got to just enjoy what we had this year. We got a new world champion. There's a lot of unpredictability heading into 2017. Let's just embrace that as a community of fans. Let's be nice to each other, man. Jesus Christ, with some negativity. I don't want to make a prediction in terms of who's going to be world champion. I think always the smart money's on Hamilton, but I do think it is the least predictable kind of prediction you can make right now. In terms of who is going to win the championship next year. Who is going to win? Is it going to be Hamilton? He is my odds on. But then there's a good argument that it could be one of the Red Bulls, or hopefully Ferrari decide to pull the thumb out their bum and get Vettel involved in the title scrap. The sport needs a big Titanic multi-team, multi-car shootout next year. That's what it needs. Whether it'll get it, you never know. But we shall see. I'm going to conclude this episode here. I've been talking for nearly half an hour straight. I've kind of said everything I wanted to say. Rosberg's the 2016 champion. The season's over. I'm going to do an episode where I'm basically going to give mock awards. Driver of the year, race of the year, worst moment, most disappointing, etc. Do a little thing like that because, everyone does that. And I can talk about the season as a whole. And as I said, there will be a Jenson Button and Felipe Massa tribute episode coming out soon, probably this time in the next week or so, whilst obviously them retiring is still very fresh. That's it. Well done, Nico. You deserve the championship, and I'm very pleased for you. So well done. Enjoy the beers. Thank you very much for listening to my very first F1 episode of Skidder Rob Talks. It's been fun, actually. I've enjoyed this. So obviously going to be a lot more F1 to come in the future. So that's it in terms of F1 2016 as a thing, as a whole. And that's, let's just look forward to next year. Thank you very much for listening. Enjoy the rest of your day. Congratulations, Nico Rosberg, the 2016 F1 World Champion. Good on you, lad. Well done.